everyone, it has been a really long time. I have been going through it, I will be honest. It has been a rough bit of time, and I had a reading that I was going to post, and I had really long, in-depth readings all about like that stopping point. And what's so funny is I finished those videos, and then I didn't put them on my iPad like I normally do, and then my phone whacked out and got crazy, and I had to do a whole reset, and the videos didn't save to my iCloud, so that tells me the messages were just for me. And I have been diving in with my current therapist, doing EMDR, and even with my trainer on the fixed code. Tomorrow I'm doing some more fixed code on this whole idea of the stopping point and being my own self-fulfilling prophecy on failure of things I've really intended and wanted to do. Bigger things. I've accomplished a lot in my life, but there are certain things around like my own personal habits and well-being or different projects that I'll do really well with for like 18, 19 days. And you get to that 21-day part and then it just goes to shit. And I stop. And yeah, it's a very interesting thing. So I put a timer on today's video because this is part, I have to look at the other videos. I think it's part 4 of healing from PTSD and talking about my third, part 4. I want to keep them shorter. And this is talking about my third CBT therapist. And I wanted it to be brief because even though I saw her at a point in my life where I started having panic attacks for the first time, and what had happened was in May of 2018, I started having these like reoccurring and amplified catastrophizing thoughts that were pervasive. Like the automatic negative thoughts were like all the time, and I was feeling like the person that threatened my life was going to come into my place of work and shoot up my entire staff or me, or try and get to me or my family or something like that. And it just was spinning out of control. And what I realized was that it was the exact time that it had been the same month, the same days that triggered in me, because our body keeps score. You know, there's an incredible book called The Body Keeps Score that I'll link below that taught me a ton, and there's still gaps on it on PTSD because we learn more as we go on, and that book was written a while ago, but it's an incredible book. And my point with this video though is to share with you the biggest takeaways from my third CBT experience. And one of the things I loved about this therapist, her first name was Irene, and she was just such a balanced and open and incredible individual, and she really pinpointed in me the things that I could use to transmute and really harness my feelings and express them in some kind of way. And for me, that a lot of that is writing this, my artwork, and she really encouraged me on, you know, take that work that you're doing, especially around anger, and she would say, you know, instead of taking like a big, like, you know, those big cat like dirt construction things that move all the dirt and concrete and all that kind of shit, instead of taking a big ass shovel or a big old machine to your past and going through it all at the same time, think of like an archaeological dig. And you know, archaeologists, they are careful, they are intentional, they use a tiny little brush and they brush away some dust and they examine, and they brush away some dirt and they examine. And so it was really a more gentle, compassionate approach, and less overwhelming. And so as I would poke at different things that would come up, I would write. And I read one of my, what I thought was one of my most, probably still one of my most like intense prose poems that I've written, titled the Real OC for Me. When she read it, she said, you know, this needs to be shared. You need to get your book published. And I was like, what? Okay. And she's like, you really do. Like, your perspective needs to be heard, and it would help a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have experienced this and don't know how to express it. And so I finished a book of prose. I still need to publish it. Again, that stopping point. but she was incredibly encouraging in that, and she also got me to a place where at the end of I think it was just 8 sessions with her, because at the time I've been really fortunate that my 2 employers that I've worked with that have been Fortune 500, maybe even Fortune 100 companies, I forget which, top corporate companies, they're incredible, or at least the one I'm at now is incredible, and the other one was incredible for a time. They actually provide a service called an Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, in partnership with a third party, either ComPsych or something else. That's a psychological services that provides mental health support and therapy, because the work is so stressful. And so I received, the benefit of getting complimentary therapy through both employers over the last, God, it's been 10 years now, and that was part of the reason I wanted to do this video, was because I just realized it's May when I'm doing this and putting this out into the interwebs, and that was the month in 2018. Oh my gosh, that's more than 10 years. So 2018, not 20 years. What am I doing? More than 10 years. Was it? No, 2011, 2011, it's 2021, it's been 10 years, I was right, my brain is remembering the time that I went to therapy and then the actual time of the incident of the death threats. So it's a 10-year anniversary of that, and it is also the 10-year anniversary of me starting therapy. And what I realized in working with my last CBT therapist, was I would go, her office was right next to the coffee shop that I worked at that the death threats happened at. It was like down the street. Synchronicity, of course. And I went one day for the first time, so that would have been 2018, so it would have been 7 years since I had been to that store since it happened. And I went to that store, sat on the outdoor patio right next to where all of this went down, and I wrote in my journal, and I had this moment of absolute gratitude. And I wrote a thank you note for the young man that threatened my life. And all I wished for him and his family was the same peace and healing that I was finding for my past. Because what I realized was that it took me getting death threats from him in order to finally get therapy. And I needed it my whole life. And I had no idea. But it took that kind of stopping moment, that kind of transformational, traumatic moment where I could not function any longer and had to seek therapy. And it's been a 10-year process, and I honestly would not change a thing about it. I've learned so much. And so the biggest things I wanted to share is that even when things are so painful and so scary, there's so much to be learned when you're ready to learn, but you have to process the emotions, and you have to have a way to harness, acknowledge, really let yourself feel through it, feel it in your body, and then find a way to release it. And so writing, making videos, talking to people, talking to somebody, CBT therapy, EMDR, which is going to be one of my next videos. Next we're going to talk about psychedelics. And it's really, you just need an outlet. Music, creating videos, creating movies, creating films, creating cartoons, graphic novels. There's so many different ways, acting, there's so many different ways to process and work through what we've been through. And a therapist or professional healer, practitioner can guide you through what that path looks like for you. And there is no magic bullet. There's not one thing you're going to do, one psychotropic drug that you're going to take and it's going to fix all your problems. For the people that I know that have gone the route of psychotropic drugs, they're meant to be a short-term thing that end up being a long-term thing, and it's this continual chemical rebalancing and experimentation where you're just told to, just give it a couple weeks and it'll even out. Oh, try this and see if it'll even out. And you're taking all these things for all the side effects, and you're just, a lot of times fucked up 6 ways to Sunday, and you have no normal baseline. And a lot of times they do that because they don't have a therapist available, or maybe the person doesn't want to go through the deep root cause work to really get through why they have depression or anxiety or PTSD. And I get that. Honestly, there are so many ways that our society makes it really convenient to just numb the fuck out and not deal with anything. And I totally get that. And if that's your choice and that makes you happy, do your thing. But if you want to do the work and you want to move on in your life and you want to stop being angry at yourself for repeating the same shitty cycles, shadow work, therapy, healing, it's all possible. Yes, it's painful, but it's totally worth it. And I'm pursuing a path, in that way, and sharing this so that it can, even if it just hits one person and that's you, and it makes a difference and it helps you along your journey, it's worth it to me to put this out there and to put myself out here. And I do believe people can heal, and I've seen so much in this last year of when it comes out, more than a year from being in isolation and everything else going on, where it's like we're all experiencing a collective trauma, and that activates all the other traumas. And as I've talked about in videos before, it's like scientifically we can see that it's at least 3 generations of stacking trauma that we carry within our physiology and within our DNA. And then you think about energetically and spiritually, past lives, it's all in here. But what's even more interesting is Indigenous people believe it's up to 7 generations that we carry, and that stacks, which makes total sense as well. So it's a lot. And my point of all that is that when you decide to do the shadow work and when you decide to do the healing work for yourself, you actually also break generational cycles of trauma, and you help your ancestors who have already passed heal and move on. And it's a really incredible thing. And even just right now, I'm getting so many chills talking about it, because I have seen and felt within my own life and seen the changes as soon as I decided to work on myself and to really look at myself and observe. And again, it's not a magic pill of one thing that CBT is going to be a cure-all, or that psychedelics are going to be a cure-all, or the fixed code is going to be a cure-all, or this, Reiki or anything else. It's a combination depending on who you are, where you're at, and what you've tried before. But it's a combination of things that end up working. And the biggest thing, honestly, like I started out these videos, is a belief that you can heal, and that it is not something that is always going to be your reality, because our brains are elastic, our spirits are expansive, and this universe has an incredible capacity to show us love, both for ourselves and others, when we start to do the healing work and understand. Like for me, I recognize that the man that threatened me was so ill himself. Hurt people, hurt others, right? And he had a history of violence. And I know that his family life was really rough and violent as well. And that was my timer. But that was his operating language. And really, I'll go more in depth on this on another video, and it seems like kind of drop in the bucket thing to put at the end of this, but really, people are who they are because of where they were born, into what family, into what place, at what time, and what they know is what they know. And until they don't know what they don't know, or until they know what they don't know, they're gonna keep doing the same thing, and when people do horrible and atrocious things to other humans, it's because horrible and atrocious things have been done to them. And when our parents can't give us the love and attention or support that we need, it's because they never got the love and attention and support that they needed, so they don't know how. And it seems kind of trivial to say, but I know Dr. Brene Brown talks about this in her books too, of, her and her therapist had the conversation, I think I've mentioned it before, of like, what if everybody was doing the best they could with what they have? What if you believed that? What if that was the thing? Could you walk about with a little more grace? Can you say to yourself that you're doing the best that you can? And the best that you can every day is a scalable thing, right? Some days the best you can do is lay in bed and get some fucking sleep. And that's the best thing you can do. And that is being your best because your body needs it, or because your emotions need a break from everything, all this input. And sometimes it's getting up, and like today, you know, I went out finally and got off my ass and I rode my rollerblades for over 4 miles with my daughter and my son, and it was incredible. It was hard. I'm gonna be sore as fuck tomorrow, but I'm so grateful that I have this body that I can get up and move, you know, and it's taken me a long time to be that way, but I know I'm doing my best. And sometimes it's not good enough for others, and we just, you know, have to apologize. But if we know we're doing our best, and each of us just tries to be our best selves each day, whatever that is, and however that is authentically us in that moment, in that day, it could be a lot better world, because I think we would have more compassion for ourselves and others. And with that, I want to wrap up for now. And my next video will be, hopefully, you know, about this length as well, shorter. And I will be talking about my experiences with some psychedelics and how they have supported my healing path and journey. So obviously still ongoing. I'm in my PJs right now. I got my Stitch shirt. There it went. There was my card. Hello, Stitch. I tried. See? I tried. I got my beautiful new background. Mystical magical trees. Got my nerd altar. Yes. Yes. It's all good. Brings me joy. I hope that this video has helped you in some kind of way, helped you identify, resonate, learn a tip, if anything. Again, remember the gentle thing. Be gentle and find a way to, oh, that's gonna be a weird sound. Deal with, sorry, I'm giving you Blair Witch Project. Deal with your emotions. Like, really deal with them. Don't repress them. If you're not in a safe space to deal with them, then take note, write it in your phone, write it on a piece of paper, whatever it is that trigger was, you know, handle in the moment, be where you gotta be, find a safe space, and then process that, right? Another way, oh, that was another thing I wanted to share that I learned from some parenting books, called The Whole Brain Child and No Drama Discipline. I'll link those down below too, but they talk about like move it or lose it. And so when our kids get, you know, super amped and their emotions are all crazy because they don't have, you know, all the repression filters that we've been taught all our lives as adults, or when we get triggered and we can't deal with it, like, move your body, go for a walk, have the kids do some jumping jacks. We have these little like spinning seats that are on the floor that the kids will spin in sometimes. And so the other day my daughter got angry and I was like, move your body, however you want to move your body and move that anger out of your body. And so she spun around in her little disc, and afterwards she felt great. And then we talked about why she was so angry and how she could respond differently next time, and how she could communicate in different ways and her needs. So a lot of times, lastly, I will say on anger, and I may have mentioned this in a reading or a video before, but I don't remember if it was something I read or something that Irene told me, but a lot of times our anger is actually grief that we were never allowed to grieve. And anger is one of the, you know, one of my biggest stages of grief that I held on to for so long, because as a girl in a family of 3 boys and my military dad and him coming from military males in a long lineage, it was okay for the guys to be angry, for the boys to be angry and show that anger and aggression, but it wasn't okay for girls to express anger or much of anything. And, you know, we couldn't do, there were a lot of things that were denied to me because I was a girl. And I never realized how much anger of that had built up. And so, again, a lot of times anger is just so multifaceted. And there's another last tip that I'll give for anger specifically too, is that, you know, when you get triggered with anger, think about and ask yourself, what belief is under this anger? Because typically it's like, I've been wronged. It's this feeling of like, how dare you? And, you know, either not meeting expectations or what have you. And so it's like, what belief is underneath this anger? And it can give you a lot of insight. So again, that's one of those gentle astrological digs into your psyche and your past. And let me know in the comments below if this helped you out, if you'd like more like this. There will be more coming out, but if you have any specific questions, please let me know and reach out. Links will be below for anything I talked about. And yeah, so that's gonna be that. And I will see you next time. Thank you for joining the Nebula Vibe, and I will have a reading out soon. I've been studying my cards more and just spending some time with them as I've been processing my own things lately that I'm not quite comfortable to share about yet, but we'll get there. We're building up to it. So until then, may you be well, may you be compassionate toward yourself and others, and may you be at peace.